Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me carefully, because what I'm about to tell you could change the way you carry yourself for the rest of your life. Too many people walk through this world acting like passengers, waiting for someone to validate them, approve them, or tell them they're enough. But confidence, true confidence, doesn't wait for applause. It's built silently, daily, brick by brick, habit by habit, in the way you show up when nobody's watching. You see, personality isn't a gift, it's a choice. Confidence isn't a talent, it's a muscle. And if you don't train it, life will train you to stay small. So if you truly want to grow, if you want to build a presence that commands respect and a personality that people remember, it starts right here, right now, with how you live your every single day. Own your presence before you speak. That's where true confidence begins. Most people think confidence is about talking louder, walking faster, or making noise to be noticed. But real confidence isn't loud, it's powerful. It's the kind of energy that enters the room before your voice does. It's the calm assurance that says, I belong here, without needing to prove it to anyone. It's what separates those who command attention from those who merely seek it. Let's be honest. In every room, there's a hierarchy of energy. There are those who shrink, those who blend in, and then there are those who own it. They don't necessarily have the best clothes or the biggest titles, but their presence is undeniable. People feel them. You can sense when they walk in. And the question is, why not you? Why can't you be the one whose energy sets the tone? Because owning your presence is not about ego. It's about alignment. The alignment between how you see yourself and how you show up to the world. Here's the truth. The world responds to what you project. If you project doubt, people will question you. If you project fear, they'll overlook you. But if you project confidence, certainty, and poise, the world listens. Every day you have two choices: to shrink into the background or to stand in your power. Confidence is not built on noise. It's built on clarity. It's built on that inner voice that says, I have something to offer, even when no one claps for you. Think about the greatest leaders you know. People like Mandela, Steve Jobs, Vusi Thembekwayo himself. When they walk into a room, they don't rush to speak. They don't need to prove anything. They stand tall, they pause, they observe, they command attention through presence, not performance. That's because real power doesn't announce itself. It radiates naturally. When you own your presence, people stop seeing you as just another person. They start seeing you as someone with purpose. So how do you build that kind of presence? It starts with body language. Your posture is your first language, long before your words ever reach someone's ears. When you stand tall, shoulders back, chin up, you're telling the world that you respect yourself. Your walk should have intention. Don't rush. Move like someone who has nowhere urgent to be, but everything important to become. Even your silence has weight when your body speaks confidence. Then comes your eye contact. There's a difference between looking and seeing. When you make eye contact with people, don't just look at them, connect with them. It's a silent way of saying, I see you and I see myself as your equal. Confidence is not about domination. It's about connection. You don't intimidate people with your presence. You inspire them to raise theirs. But here's where most people go wrong. They think presence is something you fake until you make it. No, you can't fake presence, because presence comes from authenticity. It's not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about being fully yourself without apology. It's about understanding your value and carrying it like it's non-negotiable. When you walk into a room knowing your worth, you don't need validation. You are the validation. Owning your presence also means mastering your emotions, because presence isn't just physical, it's emotional and mental. You can't own a room if your mind is full of fear and your heart is full of doubt. You need to quiet the noise inside you. Confidence is born in stillness. It's born in those private moments when you remind yourself who you are and why you're here. Before you can command a room, you must first command your mind. Every morning when you wake up, you have to decide how you want the world to experience you. That's a powerful decision. Don't let life decide your energy for you. Create it, build it, carry it. Before you step into your workplace, your meeting, or your classroom, center yourself, straighten your back, lift your head. Remind yourself that you are capable, worthy, and ready, because when your inner dialogue changes, your outer presence transforms. And let's be clear, this isn't about arrogance. Arrogance is rooted in insecurity. Confidence is rooted in peace. The arrogant person walks into the room saying, "I'm better than you." The confident person walks in saying, "I'm comfortable with me." And that's the difference. When you're secure in who you are, you don't need to compete. You just exist, and your energy does the rest. There's a magnetic force about people who own their presence. They don't chase opportunities. Opportunities chase them. People trust them faster, listen to them longer, and remember them more clearly. Why? Because presence creates influence. And influence, my friend, is the currency of the modern world. When you can hold a room with your energy, you never have to beg for attention again. So the next time you walk into a meeting, an interview, or even a casual gathering, remember this: you have something valuable to bring. Don't shrink. Don't wait for permission. Let your energy announce your arrival. Walk like your name matters. Speak like your words matter. Move like your dreams matter, because they do. The secret to owning your presence is simple. Stop asking the world to see you and start seeing yourself. Once you do that, people will have no choice but to notice. Every day when you look in the mirror, tell yourself, "Today I'm not just showing up, I'm showing out." Because when you own your presence, you don't just walk into rooms, you transform them. That's where confidence begins, not in the noise, but in the quiet certainty of knowing who you are. And once you master that, every room you walk into will adjust to your frequency. Speak with value, not volume. Because power doesn't always come from noise, it comes from clarity. Too many people mistake loudness for confidence, thinking if they raise their voice, they'll raise their worth. But the truth is, real confidence is calm. It's measured, it's precise. It doesn't need to shout to be heard. The moment you understand that your words carry energy, you'll stop wasting them. Because every sentence you speak is either building your credibility or breaking it. We live in a world where everyone is talking, but very few are communicating. The internet is loud, meetings are full of noise, and everyone is trying to prove something. But the ones who stand out are those who speak with intention, those whose words mean something, the ones who speak, and people stop scrolling, stop moving, stop thinking about themselves for a moment and listen. That's not a gift, that's a skill, and it's a skill you can master. When you speak, don't rush, pause, think, own your silence as much as your words, because silence is where your power lives. It creates gravity. It draws people in. The great communicators of the world understand this. They never speak to fill time, they speak to fill meaning. Every time they open their mouth, there's purpose behind the sound. They don't talk to be liked, they talk to make impact. And when you shift from talking for attention to talking for impact, everything about your confidence changes. Speaking with value starts with one thing: knowing what you stand for. If you don't know your values, your words will wander. But when you're clear about your principles, your words have direction. You speak from conviction, not convenience. You stop echoing the noise around you and start creating a voice that stands apart. And let me tell you something. People can feel conviction. You can't fake it. When you believe in what you say, your tone changes. Your eyes change. Your energy changes. You could whisper, and still the room would listen. Think about the people who inspire you most. They don't rush through their sentences. They don't decorate their words with meaningless flair. They speak slowly, with intention. They let every word land. Because they know power lies not in how much you say, but in how well you say it. The greatest leaders, the greatest storytellers, the greatest visionaries, they all understood one thing. When you speak with purpose, people remember you long after you've left the room. But here's the secret. Before you can speak with power, you must learn to listen deeply. Because people who listen understand before they respond. And that makes their words sharper. Listening is not weakness, it's wisdom. When you listen, you learn what matters to others, and that knowledge gives your words direction. Most people are just waiting for their turn to talk. Don't be like them. When you truly listen, your voice becomes a solution, not just another sound. Every conversation is an opportunity to build your brand. Every word is a reflection of your mindset. When you open your mouth, you're showing the world your thinking, your discipline, your control. So choose your words like currency. Don't spend them recklessly. Make them count. Because when your words have weight, your silence gains respect. And that's when people start to value your opinion. Not because you said more, but because you said what mattered. Confidence in speech doesn't come from perfect grammar or fancy vocabulary. It comes from authenticity. Speak like you, not like who you think the world wants you to be. People don't connect with perfection. They connect with realness. Be raw, be intentional, be human. The moment you speak from your truth, people will feel it, because sincerity carries more influence than style ever will. And let's talk about emotional control, and because it's a key part of speaking with power. The insecure person raises their voice when they feel unheard. The confident person lowers it because they know calmness is more intimidating than chaos. When your emotions are stable, your words become stronger. You don't react, you respond. You don't explode, you express. And that's what makes people trust you. People trust calm. They trust those who speak from clarity, not from anger or desperation. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. When you stay quiet, you create space for others to think. You make them curious. You make them lean in. Great communicators understand the psychology of pause. That perfect moment between sentences where the listener processes what you just said. That's where persuasion lives. That's where leadership breathes. When you speak with value, you don't just express thoughts, you transfer energy. Your voice becomes a vehicle for vision. You don't just talk about what is, you talk about what could be. You inspire action. You spark ideas. You shift perspectives. That's what real communicators do. They leave people better than they found them. So every time you speak, ask yourself, am I adding noise or am I creating change? Confidence in speech is not about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the most anchored voice in the room. The one that doesn't chase attention, but earns it. The one that doesn't fill space with words, but fills silence with meaning. The one that doesn't fear being quiet, because quiet confidence is more powerful than desperate noise. And when you master that, your presence becomes magnetic. People will wait to hear you. They'll quote you. They'll trust your words because you've earned that trust through discipline, precision, and sincerity. Your voice becomes more than sound. It becomes influence. And in this noisy world, influence is the ultimate advantage. So remember this. Don't just talk to be heard, talk to be felt. Because people forget words, but they never forget the feeling your words gave them. Speak with value, speak with vision, speak with confidence, so rooted that even your silence speaks for you. Invest in your mind daily, because your personality is only as strong as your thinking. You can't expect to walk with confidence if your mind is starving for growth. The way you think shapes the way you speak, the way you act, and ultimately the way the world sees you. Every great transformation begins in the mind first. Confidence isn't born from looks, titles, or money. It's born from understanding. When you understand more, you fear less. And when you fear less, you move with authority. Here's the reality. You can't build a powerful life with a weak mind. The person who stops learning starts shrinking. Every day you neglect your growth, you make it easier for the world to control how you think, how you feel, and how you live. The greatest weapon you'll ever own is knowledge. It's what separates the average from the exceptional, the followers from the leaders. You can take a person's job, money, or status, but you can never take away what they've built inside their mind. That's why I tell people, invest in your brain like your future depends on it, because it does. Every single day, you should be feeding your mind with something that stretches you. Read something that challenges your beliefs. Listen to something that makes you uncomfortable. Surround yourself with people who talk about ideas, not gossip. Growth doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. When you choose to expose yourself to better conversations, better information, and better influences, your confidence naturally grows, because knowledge gives you power, not the kind that dominates others, but the kind that frees you from ignorance. Let me tell you something real. Confidence without competence is arrogance. You can pretend for a while, but people eventually see through empty confidence. That's why your mind must match your ambition. When you know what you're talking about, your voice changes, your posture changes. You don't need to convince anyone because you know. That's why people who read, study, and learn consistently carry a different energy. They don't panic when questioned. They don't crumble under pressure. They respond with calmness because they've built their confidence on substance, not appearance. If you want to transform your personality, feed your curiosity like it's oxygen. Curiosity keeps you alive. It keeps your conversations rich, your thoughts fresh, and your perspective wide. The person who stops being curious stops growing. Every book, every conversation, every experience is a mirror that shows you a part of yourself you haven't met yet. Growth isn't about learning everything, it's about discovering more of who you can become. But let's get one thing straight. Investing in your mind isn't always glamorous. Sometimes it means sitting alone with a book while others are out partying. Sometimes it means admitting you don't know something and having the humility to learn. Sometimes it means unlearning bad habits, outdated beliefs, and toxic thinking. Growth can be uncomfortable, but that's where strength is built, in the tension between who you are and who you're becoming. Knowledge also gives you perspective, and perspective is power. It teaches you not to overreact, not to take things personally, not to be shaken by every small failure. When you understand how life works, you stop being controlled by emotions. You become centered. You learn that setbacks are not rejections, they're redirections. That awareness gives you peace, and peace is the foundation of confidence, because a calm mind can handle any storm. Every morning when you wake up, ask yourself one question. What am I doing today to improve my thinking? It could be reading 10 pages of a powerful book, listening to an insightful podcast, or journaling your thoughts for clarity. It could be reflecting on your mistakes and extracting lessons. The point is, don't let a single day go by without feeding your mind, because every small effort compounds. 1 year of daily learning can elevate your confidence to levels you never imagined. The tragedy of our generation is distraction. We have access to unlimited knowledge, yet most people use that access for entertainment, not empowerment. They scroll more than they study. They watch others live instead of building their own lives. But those who choose to invest their attention wisely, they win. They speak differently. They think differently. They walk differently, because their mind is not polluted by noise. It's powered by wisdom. Here's a fact. You attract on the level of your mindset. If your mind is limited, your opportunities will be too. But when your thinking expands, everything around you expands. You see possibilities where others see problems. You stay calm where others panic. You lead where others follow, because your mind is the engine behind every success, every relationship, every decision. If you keep it sharp, your life will always move forward. And don't just learn to impress others. Learn to improve yourself. Don't chase degrees. Chase wisdom. Don't memorize information. Internalize insight. Read books that make you uncomfortable. Study people who challenge you. Ask questions that open your mind. Because the goal of learning isn't to appear smart. It's to become self-aware. Confidence doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from knowing yourself deeply. You have to train your mind the same way athletes train their bodies. Feed it, test it, stretch it, and rest it. Surround yourself with thinkers, not complainers. Fill your environment with growth, not gossip, because what you consume becomes who you are. If you keep feeding your mind with small talk and shallow ideas, don't be surprised when your confidence feels weak. But if you feed your mind with knowledge, vision, and truth, you'll walk with unshakable certainty. Your personality is a reflection of your thoughts. When your mind is sharp, your confidence follows naturally. You don't have to fake it. You don't have to force it. It becomes part of you. So make learning your lifestyle, not your hobby. Let curiosity become your confidence. Because when your mind is full, your fears are empty. And that's where real power begins. Stop comparing yourself to others, because the moment you do, you start losing the rhythm of your own greatness. Every time you measure your worth against someone else's success, you're giving away your power. You're saying their path defines mine, but it doesn't. It never has. You were created to walk a road no one else can walk, to write a story no one else can tell. Yet most people spend their lives trying to fit into a timeline that was never built for them. They scroll through social media, see someone's highlight reel, and suddenly feel behind in life. They forget that comparison is not the measure of progress. Purpose is. You see, the problem with comparison is that it blinds you to your own growth. It makes you focus on what you don't have instead of what you've already built. It whispers lies that your journey isn't enough, that your pace is too slow, that your effort doesn't count. But here's the truth. Everyone's chapter 1 looks different from someone else's chapter 20. You can't compare your beginnings to someone else's breakthroughs. Confidence dies the moment you forget that your race is yours alone. The most successful people don't look left or right, they look forward. They understand that real growth happens in silence, in discipline, in focus. They don't waste energy trying to outshine others. They invest that energy in becoming the best version of themselves. The moment you stop competing with people, you start competing with potential. That's where power lives. Because when you wake up every day trying to outdo yesterday's version of you, you become unstoppable. We live in a generation obsessed with validation. People chase approval like it's oxygen. They want likes, comments, and attention, but none of that builds confidence. External validation is fragile. It fades the moment it's not fed. True confidence, real confidence, is built internally. It comes from knowing who you are and what you stand for, even when no one's watching. When you stop needing applause to feel valuable, that's when you become powerful. Every person you envy has their own invisible struggle. You might see their success, but you don't see the nights they cried, the sacrifices they made, or the fear they fought. Comparison robs you of compassion. It makes you forget that behind every success story is pain, patience, and persistence. Instead of asking, why not me? Start asking, what can I learn? Because comparison drains you, but learning empowers you. When you admire instead of envy, you turn someone else's success into your motivation, not your misery. Here's a truth few want to hear. The only reason we compare ourselves to others is because we haven't yet accepted ourselves fully. The gap between who you are and who you want to be feels uncomfortable, and rather than working to close it, we distract ourselves by watching others. But growth doesn't come from watching, it comes from working. You don't need to be better than them. You need to be better than yesterday's you. Every small improvement compounds into greatness. That's how confidence is built, through consistent personal evolution. Let me give you something to think about. A flower doesn't look at the one next to it and say, I wish I bloomed like that. It just grows. It reaches for light in its own time, its own rhythm, its own direction. And yet, when it blooms, it adds beauty to the world. You too have your own timing. You too are meant to grow at your own pace. The sun will shine for you when it's meant to. Stop rushing your process just because someone else got there first. Their success doesn't mean your failure. The world is abundant. There's space for everyone to win. And if you ever feel small while watching someone else win, remember, your moment is coming, but only if you stay focused. You can't reach your destiny if you're too busy watching someone else's path. Energy flows where attention goes. If you give your energy to jealousy, you'll grow resentment. But if you give your energy to improvement, you'll grow mastery. Confidence isn't about feeling superior. It's about feeling secure. Secure enough to celebrate others while still building yourself. Comparison creates illusion. It tricks you into believing that success is linear, that everyone's journey should look the same. But real life doesn't work that way. Everyone has a different clock. Some people start early and fade fast. Others start slow and rise steady. The point isn't when you start, it's that you start. Confidence comes when you trust your timing, when you stop forcing things to happen and instead prepare yourself for when they do. You'll know you've grown when someone else's success no longer intimidates you. It inspires you. When you can look at others winning and think, if they can do it, I can too. That's the mindset of abundance. That's how leaders think. The insecure mind says, they're ahead of me. The confident mind says, they're showing me what's possible. The difference is perspective, and perspective is everything. Never forget, comparison steals joy, but gratitude restores it. When you start counting your blessings, you stop counting other people's achievements. Gratitude grounds you. It reminds you how far you've come. It silences that inner critic that says you're not enough. Every night before you sleep, take a moment to acknowledge your progress, not your perfection, because growth isn't about how fast you're moving. It's about the direction you're heading. Your value doesn't depend on where others are in life. It depends on what you're doing with what you have. Everyone's race has a different terrain. Some run uphill, some on smooth ground. But at the end of the day, what matters most is that you keep moving. Even a slow step forward is still progress. Don't let someone else's speed make you question your stride. So stop comparing. Your journey is sacred. Your path is unique. Your timing is perfect. The world doesn't need another version of someone else. It needs you fully, unapologetically, and authentically you. When you embrace that truth, your confidence won't need an audience. It will come from within. And once it comes from within, nothing outside can shake it. Dress and act like you respect yourself, because before the world takes you seriously, you must first take yourself seriously. The way you present yourself tells a silent story long before you ever open your mouth. Your posture, your clothes, your tone, they all speak a language of self-respect. You might think people don't notice, but they do. Every detail communicates something about how much you value yourself, your work, and your future. When you walk into a room looking like you don't care, people believe you don't. But when you walk in sharp, composed, and confident, the world adjusts its tone to match yours. Let's get something straight. Dressing well isn't about vanity, it's about identity. It's not about impressing others, it's about expressing discipline. When you dress with purpose, you tell the world, I showed up for myself today. That attitude shifts everything. The way people treat you, the opportunities you attract, and the way you see yourself in the mirror. Because presentation isn't superficial, it's psychological. You feel different when you look the part. You stand taller, you speak clearer, you think sharper. There's a simple truth. You perform better when you feel better. Confidence begins with how you carry yourself. When you dress like a professional, you start to behave like one. When you dress like someone with goals, you start acting like someone with purpose. People often wait to feel confident before they act confident, but it works the other way around. Your actions create the feeling. If you start showing up with intention, your emotions will follow your behavior. You don't need to fake confidence, you need to frame it. But dressing well is only one part of the equation. Acting like you respect yourself is the deeper layer. It's how you talk to yourself, how you treat others, and how you handle situations when no one's watching. Self-respect means setting standards. It means saying no when you must, walking away when you should, and refusing to settle for less than you deserve, because the world treats you the way you teach it to. Every time you accept disrespect, you lower your own value. And every time you stand up for yourself, you raise your worth without saying a word. Respect isn't demanded, it's demonstrated. You can't ask people to value you if you don't show them how. It's in your habits, it's in your choices, it's in how you manage your time, your energy, and your words. The confident person doesn't waste time explaining who they are. They show it. They move with grace, speak with calm, and act with integrity. They understand that presentation isn't about showing off. It's about showing up for yourself, your dreams, and your destiny. There's power in presentation. You never know who's watching, who's listening, or who's silently deciding whether to open a door for you or close it. The way you show up determines the opportunities you attract. People make decisions about you in seconds, and while that may seem unfair, it's reality. The world sees your reflection before it hears your story. So why not make sure that reflection speaks well of you? When you walk into a room with clean energy, good posture, and confidence in your appearance, you're saying without words, I respect where I am, and I'm ready for where I'm going. And it's not about luxury or labels, it's about effort. You don't need expensive clothes to look sharp. You need intention. A neat shirt, polished shoes, and a confident smile can outshine the most expensive designer outfit if worn with pride. Because respect isn't in the price tag, it's in the presence. Some of the most powerful people in the world wear simplicity with elegance because confidence, not clothing, is their true accessory. But the way you dress and act also affects your mindset. Have you noticed how your energy changes when you wear something that makes you feel good? It's because your outer appearance and inner psychology are deeply connected. When you carry yourself well, you tell your subconscious that you're worth the effort. And when your subconscious believes that, your entire demeanor changes. You walk differently, you talk differently, you attract differently because your self-image dictates your behavior. And your behavior dictates your results. People respect consistency. They notice when you hold yourself to a standard. They remember how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you handle adversity. It's the small things that separate leaders from followers. The leader doesn't just talk about discipline, they embody it. Every handshake, every conversation, every detail of their presentation reinforces a single message. I respect myself enough to represent excellence. And that's the secret. Excellence is a lifestyle, not a moment. It's built through repetition. Every day, when you decide to show up with intention, you strengthen your self-image. You start to believe that you deserve better, and that belief drives better results. Your confidence stops depending on external validation because your self-respect becomes your foundation. You stop chasing approval because you already know your worth. When you respect yourself, everything about your energy changes. You don't seek attention, you attract it. You don't demand loyalty, you inspire it. You don't force influence, you earn it. Because self-respect has a frequency that people feel it. They can tell when you operate from a place of dignity and self-worth. And that kind of energy can't be ignored. It's magnetic. Every morning when you look in the mirror, remind yourself, how I present myself today is a reflection of how much I value my future. Dress like your dreams matter. Speak like your words carry weight. Move like you belong in every room you enter, because you do. When you treat yourself with respect, you teach the world how to treat you. And that lesson is far louder than any words you'll ever speak. The truth is, your confidence doesn't start on stage, in meetings, or under the spotlight. It starts in the quiet moments, when you decide to look your best, speak your best, and live your best. It starts when you decide you're worth the effort, worth the discipline, and worth the standard. Because once you start carrying yourself like someone of value, the world has no choice but to see you that way too. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is your mirror. It shows you exactly where you need to grow. Every time you feel discomfort, that's life whispering, this is where confidence is born. You don't build confidence reading about it, talking about it, or watching someone else live it. You build confidence by stepping into the fire of your own fear. The only way to become comfortable in your own skin is to spend time being uncomfortable in your growth. Growth and comfort do not coexist. And the person who learns to move through fear, not run from it, becomes unstoppable. The truth is, most people don't fail because they're not capable. They fail because they never begin. They let fear build stories in their minds, and those stories become their prison. They say, what if I'm not ready? What if I fail? What if people laugh? But what if you succeed? What if the very thing you're afraid of is the doorway to your next level? You see, fear disguises itself as protection, but in reality, it's restriction. It convinces you to stay where it's safe, but nothing grows in safety. Progress demands risk. Confidence demands exposure. You will never find your power hiding behind your comfort zone. There is a moment, a defining moment, when you have to decide that fear will not control the direction of your life. You may feel nervous, your voice may shake, your hands may tremble, but you do it anyway. Because courage is not the absence of fear, it's the decision to act despite it. When you move through discomfort, you rewire your brain to believe that you can survive challenge. Every time you confront something that scares you, you build mental armor. You begin to trust yourself. You start realizing, if I can handle this, I can handle anything. And that belief, that unshakable self-trust, is where confidence lives. Confidence is not something you wait to feel before you take action. It's something you earn through repetition. You don't wake up one morning suddenly fearless. You become fearless through small acts of courage. Every time you push a boundary, take a risk, speak up when your voice wants to hide, you build a new version of yourself. And that version is stronger, wiser, and bolder. Think of confidence as a muscle. The more you challenge it, the more it grows. Avoiding fear is like avoiding the gym. You stay weak. Facing fear is your daily workout. It shapes you. Let's be honest, fear doesn't disappear as you succeed. In fact, the higher you climb, the louder it gets. New levels bring new fears, but you learn to interpret them differently. You stop seeing fear as a stop sign and start seeing it as a signal that you're evolving. When you feel that tightness in your chest, that voice in your head that says, this might be too much, that's your moment to lean in, because what lies beyond that resistance is growth. You can't experience transformation without tension. Discomfort is the cost of elevation. Here's the paradox. Most people want confidence without the challenge. They want to feel ready before they act. But readiness is a myth. No one feels ready to lead, to speak, to take that first step. Everyone feels fear. The confident person just moves anyway. You cannot wait for permission to become who you are meant to be. You give yourself permission by taking action. You must teach your body, your mind, your spirit that you are capable. Every bold step you take becomes evidence, and that evidence builds confidence. Think about the moments that shaped you the most. They weren't the easy ones. They were the moments that tested you. The nights you wanted to quit but didn't. The times you walked into rooms where no one knew your name, yet you stood tall. The days you failed publicly but chose to rise again. Those are the moments that sculpt character. Confidence isn't forged in applause. It's built in resilience. Every challenge you overcome adds another brick to your foundation of strength. Discomfort is a teacher. It humbles you, stretches you, and prepares you for what's next. You can't evolve by staying where you are. If you want to improve your personality, if you want to grow in confidence, start choosing the uncomfortable path. Speak in front of people, even if your voice shakes. Have the difficult conversation, even when your heart races. Take the opportunity, even when you don't feel ready. Every act of courage rewrites your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who can't and start seeing yourself as someone who did. That shift changes everything. The people you admire, the ones who walk into rooms with power and presence, they didn't get there by avoiding discomfort. They built themselves through it. They took risks, faced rejection, and got up after falling 100 times. They learned that failure doesn't define you. Quitting does. They understood that comfort is a cage, and the key to unlocking your potential lies in your willingness to endure temporary pain for permanent growth. Because growth is not comfortable, but it's always worth it. When you step into discomfort, you don't just gain confidence, you gain clarity. You start understanding what you're truly capable of. You discover that fear was never there to stop you. It was there to show you how strong you could become. You realize that confidence isn't found in the absence of doubt, but in the decision to move forward anyway. It's a choice, a deliberate act of courage that says, I will not let fear decide my future. Every time you step into the unknown, you redefine who you are. You start to see that the things you once feared lose power over you. What once felt impossible becomes normal. You begin to crave growth instead of comfort. You start looking at challenges and thinking, what can this teach me? Instead of, what if I fail? And that mindset, that hunger for growth, becomes your greatest weapon in life. So, if you want to build unshakable confidence, stop running from the things that scare you. Step toward them. Embrace the discomfort. Speak up when it's easier to stay quiet. Stand tall when it's easier to hide. Because every step into fear is a step into freedom. And one day you'll look back and realize the things that once terrified you became the training ground for your greatness. Fear wasn't your enemy after all. It was your invitation to rise.